Welcome back, you lovely people. Hope everybody is having a great day. Bitcoin not having such a great day, down 3% and just, well, exactly $55,000 right now. So we've been watching a couple of key levels, the one in here at 55,500, now at upward sloping trend line, converging in the same area. And right now, as we speak, this is looking very bearish because we broke them to the downside, came into retest, and now it looks like we're resuming downwards. We're on a very low time frame here, so we can't say that it's confirmed yet, and we can't say that we're following scenario A, which would be a full capitulation. When will we be able to confirm that? I'm just looking at the daily time frame. I think if we started making a lower low on the daily, so that would put us in, let's call it 54,400, and particularly if we made a lower swing low, so 53,300, they would be our confirmations that we're heading much lower. And if that does play out, then I will be doing some content on what our downside targets are. We've talked about them briefly in the past when we're looking at the last cycle, around 40 to 45,000, but we'll get very specific on that should they come into play. But for now, I'm going to move, change this key support level to now resistance because we are below it. And why are we selling off? What's going on? Well, I just want to show you the fact that the stock markets are selling off. So the NASDAQ is now down 2.7% and is starting to look quite ugly there. And the S&P is down 1.4%, both breaking some key trend lines there. So stock market's looking ugly. There's something that people don't like, and that is inflation. Inflation being something which I've been talking about now for over a year. I was actually doing webinars a year ago on how scary the future looked at that point, and that we were due to see very, very high inflation in the not too distant future. We are starting to see it. Of course, we've seen it in financial assets, including crypto, during that time, but we're now seeing it in consumer prices. So big news out of the US today, and that was that the CPI number, which we know I've talked about, is completely manipulated to keep it low. So the increase for April was 4.2%, which is the highest, the biggest 1 month increase since the government started tracking prices. That's for cars and trucks. But overall, the prices were huge and the highest, I believe, since 2008 across the board. And some of these numbers are crazy. Fuel prices were up 28%. Of course, there's issues there with oil supply. There's issues with supplies of many goods and services around the world owing to locking the world down. Bacon up 10%, all kinds of other stuff up 6, 7%, etc. Really, really concerning numbers. This is going to be felt by many, many people. And Federal Reserve, central banks, they're telling us it's going to be transitory. How they know that, I have no idea. They actually don't know that. They're just saying that so they can continue to print money and continue to keep rates at historic lows, because that's the only way they can keep propping up the global economy. But we are going to feel the pain of those actions, and it is starting to show as we speak. So the markets are not liking that, because they were quite shocking numbers and everybody's coming to terms with what's going on. What else do I want to talk about? I've had a few questions even before today asking if our targets are still in play. So are we still looking at September? Are we still looking at $296,000? You know, these questions coming off the back of Bitcoin moving sideways since February and people getting a little bit concerned and frustrated. So let's have a look into that and see if we feel that there's any problem. Well, our best our best data point is the Halving Tracker. Let me move this over here. Let's do this. There we go. So our blue line is the cycle, and you can see that regardless of this sideways movement since February, since day, let's call it 280 past the halving, even though we've been sideways since then, we are still far, far ahead of where we were supposed to be based on the last cycle. If we'd have followed the last cycle perfectly, we'd have been somewhere around $35,000 right now, and we are sitting pretty at $55,000. So that looks really bullish. Our numbers and model is primarily based on the last cycle. So as long as we stay ahead of this green line, we look very, very healthy. The way that the Halving Tracker calculates, I believe that would put us somewhere around $260,000, $270,000. And we are far, far ahead of that at the moment. So our target is currently $296,000. And given how far we are ahead of the last cycle, looks bullish. But what happens if we have a capitulation down here to 40,000? Is that concerning? Is that something which will make us set some lower targets? Well, for that, we can look at the cycle repeat chart, which is really, really interesting. So it takes from today, or literally from this second, and plays out the last cycle. And if we were to follow the last cycle exactly from where we are right now, then the cycle peak would be about $404,000 US. And what's very interesting is that we even have that capitulation that I have been predicting. And we will see whether it does play out or doesn't play out. And just zoom in slightly on that, the cycle repeat graph is saying that if that carried out as it did in the last cycle, that would be somewhere around $40,000. And from $40,000, then there is a 10x up to the cycle peak. And and the cycle repeat graph has that around the beginning or middle of October. So I said our range was mid-September to mid-October. This is putting us at the latter end of that. But what I plan to do is when we do end up making our new all-time highs, and whether we're going up from here or whether we're going to come down and bounce from here, then I'm going to recalculate all of the numbers and all of the timeframes to give us some updated targets. So we'll have that. And if we do break to the downside, I'll do some calculations around our downside targets. But for those that are asking and concerned about our targets and this cycle potentially not playing out as per the last cycles, what I can tell you right now is this looks very, very good. Since we set those targets, since we started tracking, we are exactly where we expected to be, if not ahead of where we expected to be. Our $296,000 target may prove to be conservative, and all that is required around this time is extreme patience. Do not make any mistakes. Don't get impatient. Don't start chasing doggy coins, because we are on the brink of something very, very special. And we're also on the brink of a key decision for Bitcoin. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens the rest of today and over the next couple of days. We're probably getting our decision. I said we need it by the 15th of May. It looks like that we're going to get it one way or the other. So we'll be tracking it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting, and I will talk to you tomorrow.